Gold just hit $6,000 an ounce. I need you to hear that number. 6,000. Not on COMEX, not on London. Both of those are closed right now. Gold hit 6,000 on Chinese dark market weekend trading, while every traditional exchange on the planet is shut down. That is $750 above where gold closed on Friday. In a weekend, while a war is raging. And that is not even the scariest number I'm going to show you today. A Chinese bank, Zheshang Bank, just published an official notice to its customers, dated February 28, 2026. The bank warned that due to extreme price fluctuations and market liquidity drying up, they may temporarily close their gold savings business. Buying gold, selling gold, physical gold exchange, all suspended. A bank in the second largest economy on earth is telling its customers that it might have to stop letting them trade gold because there is not enough gold left in their system. The vault is emptying. The inventory is depleting. That is not a market correction. That is a system fracturing in real time. And by the end of this video, I'm going to show you exactly why this is just the beginning, why this is going to spread to other banks, and what it means for silver, which is in even worse shape than gold right now. But first, you need to understand what happened in the last 24 hours, because the events that sent gold to 6,000 are so extreme that most people have not fully processed them yet. And every single one of them has a direct consequence for your wealth. The supreme leader of Iran is dead. Ali Khamenei, the most powerful man in Iran for over 3 decades, has been killed by a precision missile strike from the United States and Israel. Donald Trump confirmed it himself. He called Khamenei one of the most evil people in history and said there was not a thing he or the other leaders killed alongside him could do. The compound in Tehran where Khamenei was located has been completely destroyed. Satellite imagery shows total devastation. This is not a strike on a military depot. This is the assassination of a sitting head of state by direct missile fire. That has not happened in modern history. And what this means for gold and silver is so massive that I do not think anyone, including the people who ordered the strike, fully understands what they have unleashed. Welcome to the Hidden Economy. If you are new here, this is where I connect the data that nobody else is connecting. Hit subscribe right now because this situation is developing by the hour. Click the hype button underneath this video. Please help me push it to everyone who needs to see it. Let us go. Now let me walk you through the full sequence because the speed of this escalation is unlike anything in modern military history. It started 3 days ago with coordinated US and Israeli strikes on Iran. Precision missiles hitting military installations, defense ministry sites, missile program facilities, all across Tehran and other Iranian cities. Iran's defense minister was killed in the initial wave. Israel declared a full state of emergency. Every citizen told to shelter. US embassies across the Gulf locked down. That was phase 1. Gold was already at $54.94 at that point. Phase 2 came hours later, and this is where everything changed. Iran retaliated. And not just against Israel. Iran launched missiles at Dubai, at Qatar, at Bahrain, at Kuwait, at Riyadh, the capital of Saudi Arabia, at Abu Dhabi. Iran went after the entire region. A U.S. naval base in Bahrain was hit directly by an Iranian missile. American families stationed there watched missiles impact their base. The U.S. air defense systems failed to intercept several of those incoming missiles. That is not supposed to happen. The most advanced military in the world just had its base hit by Iranian ballistic missiles that got through the shield. I want you to understand the significance of that failure. The United States spends over $800 billion a year on defense. The Patriot missile system, the THAAD system, the Aegis system on naval ships, these are supposed to create an impenetrable dome over U.S. forces. And Iranian missiles got through multiple times, at multiple locations. That tells you one of two things. Either the volume of incoming missiles overwhelmed the systems, which means Iran has enough firepower to saturate our defenses, or the missiles were fast enough and advanced enough to evade interception, which means the Russian and Chinese hypersonic technology that Iran reportedly received actually works. Either answer is terrifying. Iran is sending a very clear message. If Tehran burns, and the entire Middle East burns with it. An Iranian general went on state media and said something that should terrify every person on this planet. He said, "We have only used our weakest missiles so far. You have not seen what we really have." Now, is that posturing? Maybe. Countries on the back foot always exaggerate their capabilities during war. But intelligence reports from the last several weeks indicate that China and Russia have supplied Iran with advanced ship-killing hypersonic missiles. Chinese defense analysts have written on military blogs that Iran could become the first country in history to sink a U.S. aircraft carrier. Whether that is propaganda or prophecy, the fact that professional military analysts in Beijing are publishing that assessment means it is being taken seriously. A former CIA officer stated publicly that there is no clear defense against hypersonic missiles traveling at those speeds. And he said that if Iran manages to hit a U.S. aircraft carrier, and I am quoting him directly, That would be the beginning of World War III. I want you to let that settle for a moment. A former CIA officer is saying on the record that we are one missile strike away from a global conflict. Whether you think that is alarmist or realistic, the point is that this is the conversation happening at the highest levels of intelligence and defense right now. And that conversation is being priced into every dark market trade happening right now. Then came phase 3, the kill shot. The United States and Israel located Ali Khamenei and sent a precision missile directly into his compound. I told you the headline already, but let me tell you what the headline does not say. Trump did not just announce the kill. He used it as a trigger for regime change. He told Iranian citizens to take to the streets, overthrow your government. He told Iran's police and security forces that if they stand down now, they will be given immunity. This is not just a military operation. This is an attempt to topple the Iranian government entirely. And that changes everything about how long this conflict lasts and how far gold goes. Here is why the killing of Khamenei changes the calculus for metals in a way that a conventional military exchange does not. A normal strike and counter-strike cycle has a natural off-ramp. Both sides hit each other, declare victory, negotiate a ceasefire, and markets calm down. That is what happened the last time Israel and Iran exchanged fire. Limited strikes, symbolic damage, quiet negotiations, gold spiked and then settled. That playbook is dead now. When you kill the supreme leader, you eliminate the off-ramp. There is nobody left on the Iranian side with the authority to negotiate a ceasefire, even if they wanted to. The entire command structure is decapitated. The defense minister was killed in an earlier strike. Now the supreme leader is gone. The people left standing, the military commanders, the Revolutionary Guard generals, they are not the ones who negotiate. They are the ones who escalate. And they have 88 million people behind them who just watched their leader get assassinated by a foreign missile. The imagery of Khamenei's destroyed compound is all over Iranian media right now. News anchors were crying on live television as they announced his death. The camera crews behind them were crying. Whatever you think about the Iranian government, the emotional response inside that country right now is volcanic. And volcanic emotions in a country with ballistic missiles and possibly nuclear material is the most dangerous combination on the planet. Iran's ambassador to the United Nations responded today with one sentence. He told the American delegation to be polite, that it would be better for them. That is not the language of a country preparing to surrender. That is the language of a country preparing to unleash everything it has left. And former Israeli defense officials have said publicly that the events of the coming weeks will have consequences that last decades. When the people who planned this strike are warning about decades-long consequences, you need to listen, and they are already unleashing it. Dubai, one of the most international cities on Earth, is under missile attack right now. Airports across the UAE have shut down. Inbound and outbound flights canceled. People are trapped. Expats trying to leave cannot get out. Saudi Arabia has condemned Iran and is threatening to enter the conflict directly. If Saudi Arabia joins this war, you are looking at a regional conflagration that makes everything we have seen so far look like a warm-up. And this is where the war stops being a news story and starts being a direct threat to your bank account. Because everything I just described, the assassination, the retaliation, Dubai under attack, Saudi threatening to enter, all of it is being priced into gold and silver right now in real time. And I promised you at the start of this video that silver is in even worse shape than gold. I am about to show you why. You already know gold is at 6,000 on the Chinese dark markets. You already know Zheshang Bank is warning about inventory depletion. But let me tell you what those numbers actually mean, because I do not think people are thinking about this the right way. $6,000 is not a prediction. It is not a target. It is a price that real people are paying right now with real money for real gold. And they are paying it on the only markets that are open while every major exchange is shut down and a war is escalating by the hour. That tells you what gold is actually worth when the people trading it can see the missiles flying in real time. The paper price we saw on Friday, that 5250 number, that was priced in a world where the supreme leader of Iran was alive and Dubai was not under attack. That world does not exist anymore. When COMEX opens, when London opens, the paper has to catch up to what the physical market already knows. And when that catch-up happens, the buying pressure is going to be unlike anything the modern financial system has ever processed. And the Zheshang Bank notice is the detail that should keep you up tonight, because when a bank warns customers that it may have to suspend gold trading due to inventory depletion, it means the physical supply chain is already cracking. This is not a hedge fund making a bet. This is not a speculator buying futures. This is a commercial bank telling millions of customers that it might not be able to give them gold because the gold is not there. The vault is emptying. The metal is gone. And this is happening while traditional exchanges are closed. When those exchanges open and every institution in the world tries to buy gold simultaneously, the banks that are already running low on inventory are going to face a choice. Sell gold they do not have or shut the window. Zheshang Bank is telling you they will shut the window. Others will follow. Now here is where it gets really scary. If gold inventory is depleting at banks during a weekend when markets are closed, think about what that means for silver. Silver's market is a fraction of gold's size. The entire above-ground silver market is worth less than what Apple makes in a single quarter. That is how small this market is. And into that tiny market, you are now pouring the combined demand of safe haven, buying plus industrial consumption, plus military demand, plus central bank accumulation. The industrial demand for silver in solar panels, electronics, and military equipment does not stop during a war. It accelerates. Think about what is being fired right now. Patriot interceptors, Iron Dome rockets, cruise missiles, hypersonic missiles. Every single one of those weapons has silver components in its guidance system, its wiring, its sensors. The satellites feeding targeting data to both sides run on silver. The encrypted communications between commanders run through equipment soldered with silver. I looked into this years ago, and what shocked me was how much silver the military burns through during active combat operations. It is staggering. And that is on top of the solar panel industry, which was already consuming record amounts before any of this started. You now have the two most silver-hungry forces on the planet, the green energy transition and a hot war, competing for the same shrinking supply at the same time. The supply that was already in a structural deficit before a single missile flew is now being hit with a demand spike that nobody planned for. Mexico, the world's largest silver producer, still has mining regions in active civil unrest. China has reclassified silver as a strategic material and choked exports. Comex vaults have been draining, and now dealers in China are refusing to sell at 120. The supply side of the silver equation has not just weakened, it has collapsed. And the demand side just went exponential. Let me talk about the Strait of Hormuz, because this is what connects the war directly to your wallet. 20% of the world's oil passes through that narrow waterway every single day. Iran sits right next to it. They do not need to blockade it. They just proved with their missile attacks on Dubai and Saudi Arabia and Qatar that they can hit anything in the region. So what happens to insurance rates for oil tankers? They go through the roof. Even if oil keeps flowing, the cost of insuring each shipment doubles or triples overnight. That cost hits refiners. Refiners pass it to gas stations. Gas stations pass it to you. We are talking about oil at $150, $200 a barrel. Not as a worst case. As the base case, if this conflict continues for more than a few days. And the Federal Reserve? Completely irrelevant now. They were already trapped before any of this happened. Inflation running hot. PPI way above expectations. They could not cut without reigniting inflation. Could not raise without triggering recession. That was the dilemma when the world was at peace. Now throw in an oil shock from the most critical shipping lane on Earth. A war that expands every hour. Food prices spiking because diesel doubles. The Fed has no moves. None. They are spectators. And in a world where the central bank is powerless, the only money that matters is the money with no counterparty risk. Gold, silver, physical metal in your hand. Russia has issued a statement that should not be overlooked. They warned that the US and Israeli strikes on Iran could trigger a radiological catastrophe. Think about what they are implying. They are hinting that the strikes may have hit near nuclear facilities. Or they are hinting that Iran may respond with a nuclear demonstration. Several analysts have raised the possibility that Iran conducts an underground nuclear test in the coming days to announce to the world that it now possesses nuclear weapons. Let me explain why that possibility matters for gold more than almost anything else happening right now. If Iran detonates a nuclear device, even underground, even as a test, the game changes completely, overnight. Iran goes from being a country getting bombed to a country with nuclear weapons that just had its leader murdered. Everything shifts. Saudi Arabia is not going to sit there and watch Iran go nuclear. They start their own program immediately. Turkey reconsiders. Every country within missile range of Iran starts making calculations they have never had to make before. And the rush into gold and silver, which is already extreme, goes to a level that has no comparison in modern financial history. Gold at 6,000 would be the floor, not the ceiling. Whether or not Iran actually does this, it does not matter. What matters is that intelligence officials and former CIA operatives are talking about it publicly. When those people start saying the word nuclear out loud, markets listen. And markets are listening right now. And there is one more trigger that everyone in the intelligence community is watching right now. The U.S. aircraft carriers deployed in the Persian Gulf. I told you earlier what a former CIA officer said about a carrier strike. But let me tell you what happens after that moment. If an American carrier is hit, the political pressure inside the United States becomes unstoppable. Congress goes from cautious to vengeful overnight. The full weight of the American military, not precision strikes, not measured responses, the full weight comes down on Iran. Tactical nuclear weapons, which were already being discussed by former Israeli defense officials in this conflict, move from theoretical to operational. And at that point, every central bank on earth, every sovereign wealth fund, every pension manager, Every institutional investor simultaneously reaches for the one asset that survives a global war: gold. The demand spike in that scenario is not measurable by any model that currently exists. Look, I'm going to be straight with you. Nuclear test, carrier strike, Saudi entering the war, a prolonged occupation that drags on for years. Pick any one of those, just one. Any single one of those happening sends gold and silver to levels we have never seen. And right now, sitting here, looking at what has happened in the last 5 days, I cannot tell you with a straight face that none of them will happen. The honest answer is that at least one of them probably will. And it could happen in the next 72 hours. Let me zoom out and give you the full picture of where we are, because I think the speed of events has been so fast that most people have lost track of the sequence. And I want every single person watching this to understand the complete picture before I tell you what I think comes next. 5 days ago, silver was at $94. Iran nuclear talks had just collapsed. I told you the setup was the strongest I had ever seen. 3 days ago, the US and Israel launched strikes on Iran. Gold spiked to $54.94 on tokenized markets. Silver hit $120 in China. Dealers stopped selling. I told you Monday morning would be historic. Then Iran retaliated. Missiles hit Dubai. Missiles hit US bases. Air defenses failed. The entire Middle East lit up. Then the supreme leader was killed. Iran's ambassador told the US to be polite. Gold hit 6,000. A Chinese bank warned it may run out of gold. Dubai airports shut down. Saudi Arabia threatened to enter the war. 5 days. From silver at 94 to gold at 6,000, and a Chinese bank halting trading. From failed negotiations to the assassination of a head of state, from a concerning setup to the edge of a global conflict. That is the speed at which the world is moving right now. And anyone who thinks this is going to calm down before markets open has not been paying attention to anything I just told you. Now let me talk about what happens when markets actually open, because I think this is going to be the most chaotic market open in the history of financial markets. And I'm not saying that for drama. I am saying it because the math demands it. Gold closed Friday around $52.50 on COMEX. It is now trading at 6,000 on the only markets that are open. That is a $750 gap. When COMEX opens, every single trader on the planet is going to try to buy gold at the same time. Market makers are going to widen their spreads to protect themselves. Liquidity will be thin because nobody wants to be the one selling gold into a war with a dead supreme leader and missiles flying at Dubai. The price is going to gap violently higher. And then the short squeeze begins. Every trader who was short gold at 5,200, 5,300, 5,500, they are all underwater. Their brokers are going to force them to buy back their positions. That forced buying pushes gold even higher, which triggers more margin calls, which forces more buying. It is the same cascade I described in my last video, but now the gap is 3 times larger and the geopolitical situation is 10 times worse. For silver, the move could be even more violent. Silver's market is tiny. The entire COMEX silver market can be moved by a few $100 million of concentrated buying. In a scenario where gold is gapping up $750 and every institution in the world is panic buying safe haven assets, the spillover into silver will be enormous. The gold to silver ratio, which has historically compressed during crises, could collapse from 55 to 1 toward 30 to 1 in a matter of days. At $6,000 gold and a 30 to 1 ratio, silver is at $200. That is not a fantasy number. That is the math. And this is what I promised you at the beginning of this video. Silver is in worse shape than gold. Here is why. Gold's problems right now are demand-driven. Too many people want to buy it. That is solvable when supply catches up. Silver's problems are structural. The demand is exploding just like gold, but the supply is collapsing simultaneously. Mexico in crisis, China choking exports, COMEX draining, dealers in Shenzhen refusing to sell at 120. And now add wartime industrial consumption on top of all of that. Gold has a demand problem. Silver has a demand problem and a supply crisis and a war consumption spike all at the same time. When Zheshang Bank runs out of gold, that is alarming. When the silver market runs out of silver, there is nowhere else to get it. There is no silver OPEC that can turn on the taps. The metal comes from mines that take a decade to develop. The structural deficit cannot be fixed in months or even years. It can only be fixed by price. And the price that fixes a structural deficit during a hot war is a price that most people cannot imagine right now. I want to be direct with you about something. I have been covering gold and silver markets for a long time. I have seen rallies. I have seen crashes. I have seen every type of fear trade and panic trade and short squeeze. What is happening right now is different. Every previous crisis I have covered had a clear boundary. A pandemic ends, a trade war settles, an election resolves. This crisis has no boundary. A dead supreme leader cannot be undone. An 88 million person country that just watched its leader get assassinated by foreign missiles is not going to forgive and forget. The Strait of Hormuz is not going to become safe because someone signs a piece of paper. The gold that Zheshang Bank does not have is not going to materialize from thin air. There is no reset button for what has happened this week. And markets that have no reset button only go in one direction. Let me address the people who have been holding gold and silver through this entire run. You bought metals because you understood something that most people did not want to hear. You understood that the system was fragile, that debts were unsustainable, that geopolitical risk was not priced in, that supply chains were vulnerable, and you prepared. What is happening right now is the event you were preparing for. Your metals are doing exactly what they were designed to do, protecting your purchasing power while the world reprices risk in real time. Do not panic sell into this volatility. There will be moments in the coming days where ceasefire rumors send gold down $200 in an hour. Social media will explode with people declaring the top. And then, 6 hours later, Iran fires another barrage, and gold is right back at 6,000 or higher. Wars are volatile. That is the nature of conflict. But the structural case for metals has not weakened. It has gotten stronger with every missile that flies. Every bank that warns about inventory, every barrel of oil that becomes harder to ship. Trust the thesis. The thesis is being proven right in the most dramatic way possible. For those who have been watching from the sidelines, I understand every new high feels expensive. Gold at 5,000 felt expensive. Gold at 5,500 felt expensive. Now gold is at 6,000, and a Chinese bank literally cannot keep it in stock. At some point, the question stops being, is it too expensive, and starts being, is it too late? I'm not telling you what to do. I have never told anyone what to do with their money. But I am telling you what I see. And what I see is a physical market that is already repriced to levels that the paper market has not caught up to yet. The paper market opens in hours. When it catches up, the move is going to be violent. I want to leave you with this. In the last week, I have watched the world change more than it has in the last decade. Iran's supreme leader killed, multiple countries under missile attack, a Chinese bank running out of gold, air defense systems failing, hypersonic missiles in play, nuclear threats, regime change in real time, all of it happening simultaneously in 5 days. There is no historical parallel for this. We are in uncharted territory. And this is not about charts or technical analysis or moving averages anymore. Those tools work in normal markets. This is not a normal market. This is the most fundamental question in finance. When the world falls apart, what do you want to be holding? A promise from a government that is $800 billion in the hole on defense spending? A digital number in a bank account at an institution that just warned it might run out of gold? Or the actual metal that humanity has used as money for 5,000 years? The answer is $6,000 right now and rising. If you are new to this channel, I have been tracking every single development in this crisis since before the first missile was fired. Every previous video built the case for exactly what you are watching unfold right now. Links are in the description. Watch them in order, and you will see how every piece fits together. Drop a comment and tell me what you think happens when markets open. Does gold hold 6,000? Does it go higher? Does Iran hit an aircraft carrier? What happens to silver? I want to hear your call. I will pin the best ones. Share this video right now. Share it with everyone you know. This is the most significant moment in financial markets since the 1970s oil embargo. Possibly since Bretton Woods. The people who understand what is happening are the ones who will be protected. Everyone else is going to wake up Monday morning wondering why everything costs more and their savings buy less.